Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1624B, and today's date is July 27th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, It Has Now Been Confirmed That Time Is Now. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we can see the deep state, they are trying everything they possibly can. And, they started with Russian collusion, they went to Stormy Daniels, and they're just doing everything they can. Now we have Cohen and the payment, and Cohen saying that Trump knew about the meeting with Donald Trump Jr., and of course Trump is out there saying, yeah, this is not true whatsoever. And again, it's his word against his word. But what I'm getting out of all of this is, number one, they raided a lawyer's office. And this is completely illegal because it's confidentiality between a client and a lawyer, just like a doctor and a patient or anything else. And again, this is really against the law. They broke the law in doing this. But what I think is happening now with the leaked tapes, I feel that Cohen and Trump, they've been actually setting up the deep state. This is part of their plan to make them go in these directions, to keep them very busy and thinking that they have something when they really, really don't. And I really do believe that this is part of the show. And Q continually tells us, enjoy the show. Just like with the show of these individuals going to New Zealand, getting the data from the Five Eyes, thinking that they're not being watched, not being recorded, but when they really are. Trump is out there saying we're going to be pulling your security clearance, and right now they're saying that they have, they've already started the mechanism for pulling the security, which I do believe means that these individuals are going to be running to find out even more information before their security clearance is eventually pulled, but I don't think they're going to pull it as of yet. They might wait a little bit longer to make sure they get more and more of the information of what is going on, because that is a great source of information to find out what they are up to. And by saying, let's get rid of your security clearance, it makes them continually run back to the source and get as much as they possibly can before the security clearance is taken away. We see the U.S. right now has reunited about 1,442 migrant children with their parents. These are the illegals that came over the border, and this was ordered by the judge. Now there's a lot of other individuals, children, who are not reunited with their parents because the people they came over with are not their parents, and a lot of these individuals do not have parents. So you can see right now a lot of the children will not be able to be reunited because they don't have their parents here, or the people they came over with, the DNA didn't match up and they aren't their parents. They don't have paperwork and things like that. And again, this is all about stopping human trafficking and things like that. And this is why this is happening right here. We see that Twitter has been shadow banning, which means when you do a search, you won't see certain information now. It's not only Twitter. We also see this in YouTube, we see it in Google, we see it in Facebook, and these companies, they have the ability to hide certain things. Even though you do a search and you actually type it in, they have the ability to hide certain information that they don't want you to see. And Vice reported that Twitter was limiting visibility on prominent Republicans in search results. And they also do this with individuals that are reporting the news. We know this, that Google does this. We know that YouTube does this and the rest. And right now it looks like Twitter, well, they're saying that they reversed their shadow ban on GOP and conservatives. But that just proves that they were doing it in the first place. Now, Trump promises to look into Twitter shadow banning. And he said this is discriminatory and illegal. And again, if you're going to put out there that you're this free speech, open platform where everyone has a voice, and then you start hiding certain individuals, well, then it's not free speech. And this is why it goes all the way back to what Q says, that we need some type of internet bill of rights for these companies. Because yes, in our everyday life, we do or are supposed to have the freedom of speech with the Bill of Rights. Online with a private company, even though they're getting funding from the government for certain projects and things like that, they continually use the idea that they're a private company and they don't really have to abide by freedom of the speech because they have their own terms of service. That's why we need a Bill of Rights, because if it is a platform where people can speak and express themselves freely, you can't be hiding one group because you just don't like it and give the other people more of the search results. That's not free and open. And I believe that's why we need this Internet Bill of Rights, just to mimic what the Bill of Rights says about freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and whatnot. And again, if we just follow really the Constitution, we really don't need any of this. But it seems like certain individuals, they like to make up their own rules as we go along and tell the people something completely different. And this is why we need to put these things into place. We see North Korea right now. They are transferring remains of U.S. soldiers from the Korean War. And the U.S. sent over about 100 wooden caskets. And the planned transfer actually coincides with the 65th anniversary of the 1953 armistice agreement that ended fighting. And it looks like a U.S. military transport plane is flying to an airfield in North Korea, and the remains are going to be coming home, and it looks like it's already happening. We see that the Syrian authorities, they have released the first photos from the White Helmets base. Now, again, the corporate media, they've been telling us that the White Helmets are a group of individuals that work on giving humanitarian aid to those who need it. And of course, they show us them rescuing people from gas attacks and things like that. But we come to find out that the White Helmets, they're part of a bigger terrorist group. They're part of Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, the moderate rebels, the Syrian Democratic Forces, and from reports on the ground from Vanessa Beeley and the rest, saying that these White Helmets, they're just terrorists. And they have, I'm talking about the Syrian Armed Forces, they have gone into the base of the White Helmets, and what did they find in there? They had weapons stored inside the base. And these weapons were in there, and they were used, and they were handed out and given to terrorist groups because they are a terrorist group. And it makes no sense that the White Helmets would have weapons at their base if they are a humanitarian organization, which we know they're not. And this is why the coalition forces help them evacuate. This is why Germany, UK, Canada, this is why they're allowing these individuals to settle down in these countries with really no paperwork, because they're hiding everything that they've done. And now it's being found out. They're raiding all these bases and finding these weapons and equipment, all from the US, from Israel, from Germany, from France. And it's all starting to make sense now. Who was behind this? It was the deep state, which we've been saying all along. But again, what the deep state likes to do, they like to give awards to people and groups to make it seem like they're on the up and up. And this is why the White Helmets got an Oscar, which means absolutely nothing. It was all set up. It was planned, prepared. And now we're finding out that, yeah, just another terrorist group like we've been reporting all along. Now, Q has dropped more breadcrumbs. We're going to start off with post 1695. And this was July 25th. And this actually confirms what we were talking about in the last report when Q put out the link to a news article where it says Trump poised to take control of the Federal Reserve. Q also put up another news article saying Trump has the right to call out the Fed if it's not acting in the U.S. best interest. Now, Q went on to say that 2+2 confirmations, fast, we will never again be under their control. This is a huge confirmation. And Q is just following up from the last post saying we are under the control of the central bank, which funds everything. And we will never again be under their control, saying that it's time to bring them down, to take control of the entire situation. And this is a confirmation from Q that this is the track we are on. If we move on to post 1696, and Anon wrote, Morning Q. Q wrote, Happy days ahead, Patriot, Q. Let's move on to post 1697. And Anon said, Need clarification in order to prevent movement split. Is R real or fake? Now, Q came out and said, there is only one Q. There are no R's, no X's, no T's, no Z's, only Q. Got it? That's it. So everything else you're hearing, fake, phony, and false. We're going to move on to post 1698. And this is July 25th. Now, Q put up an image and it says, "Rest in peace, Mr. President. Through your wisdom and strength, since your tragic death, patriots have planned, installed, and by the grace of God, activated the beam of light. We will forever remember your sacrifice. May you look down from above and continue to guide us as we ring the bell of freedom and destroy those who wish to sacrifice our children, our way of life, and our world. We, the people." Prayer said every single day in the 00. JFK, secret societies. Where we go one, we go all. Q. And then Q went on to say, "I name your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear the truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, that I take the obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God." And then Q gave a link to the FBI.gov publications, the oath, and Q said, "Remember, you owe it to your country, to yourself, to your children. We stand with you. The time is now. Q." So it looks like a lot of Annans went on and actually took the pledge, the oath, and did "I solemnly swear." So we can see this all over the boards. Everyone was doing it. And the people should be doing it because it's we the people who are supposed to defend the Constitution, not one individual, not an FBI, not the CIA. It's we the people. We defend the Constitution. We the people created the Constitution. And it's our job as a nation to defend it. Let's move on to post 1699. Q basically took the post that we just read and added to the bottom, "To all Americans, please pray," and put a number here, B8028-Z-KDHYQ-M5-ZAF1A Q+. Now, Q+ is the president speaking. Now, this was very interesting because some enterprising anon stepped in and decoded this number here and went on to say, B8028 is a plane. The KDHYQ, kind of unsure what that number is. AF1 is Air Force One, and the number 9 arrives at Terminal 9 for T9. So when we look at this, we see Air Force One, plane, B8028 on Terminal 9, Cyprus Turkish Airlines. So that's very interesting. And then we get the story about Pastor Andrew Brunson was released from Turkish prison, placed under house arrest. So I'm guessing Q's plane reference has to do with the recent release of Christian pastor Mr. Brunson. So it looks like that's what Q is trying to tell us here. Now, what's very interesting, it looks like the clowns were trying to use this number as a setup for a false flag, but an anon was quicker and actually documented what this was for, and the anon went on to say, in the future, someone will find a YouTube video with this title, the B8028Z and the rest of the number, and he said, proof and documented right now, so no such video exists. Anything in the future will be fake hoax attempt. So what the anon did here is search for the stringer on YouTube, that number, and timestamp his post with no results as proof that no such video with that title exists. So any type of future false flag or anything like that, it would be stopped. It looked like there was a video, and it looked like someone took a video with that number on top with Tel Aviv, saying maybe there'll be attack here or something like that, but that whole thing was completely stopped. Post 1700. Q put up what we've been talking about in the last report and the report from that, where that whenever any form of government becomes destructive on these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Remember, we talked about this on the $100 bill. Q has mentioned this many, many times, basically quoting from the Declaration of Independence. And Q is continually trying to say, this is what we're all about. Now, post 1701 repeats what post 1700 says, and Q added post 1690. You are witnessing, watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Power will return to the people, in all caps. So Q is confirming that we are on the right path here. And we're throwing off such a government and providing new guards for our future security. Post 1702, EU blinked. Now, we talked about that early in this report, where there are going to be zero tariffs. And it says concessions made. Zero tariffs. US to EU. America first. This is what happens when the POTUS does not sell out. After such an enormous announcement, what questions were shouted at POTUS? Russia delay in meeting Putin. DC, eyes open. Mainstream media does not represent the people. The days of our leaders lining their pockets at the expense of the American taxpayer are over. Recent example, put up a link on Breitbart, and the link was a story about McCaskill's husband getting $131 million in federal subsidies. Now, we know Dianne Feinstein and many others are also their husbands are also getting subsidies and other deals and contracts. So if we look at Congress right now, we've been saying this for quite a while, that many of these individuals get elected into Congress, they don't have that much money, and all of a sudden they become very, very wealthy in government, which is kind of ridiculous. So we see right now that Q is calling out all these individuals, confirming the central bank, they're doomed, and everything is about to change. The old guard is out, the new is in. Everything is changing. Post 1703 put up a link to Representative Mark Meadows' status. Killbox, Rod Rosenstein. And here's the tweet. I just filed a resolution with Jim Jordan and several colleagues to impeach Rod Rosenstein. The Department of Justice has continued to hide information from Congress and repeatedly obstructed oversight, even defying multiple congressional subpoenas. We have had enough. Post 1704. If Anon put up, if Rod Rosenstein is dirty, Mueller must also be dirty. If Mueller is dirty, Rod Rosenstein must also be dirty. And I think Q with this is confirming they are dirty. Post 1706, there's a picture of McCain, and down below it, it says, no name returning to headlines. And again, McCain was booed at Turning Point event after being called out by Rand Paul. And it looks like McCain received boos at Turning Point USA's High School Leadership Summit when his name was mentioned by Senator Rand Paul. And Q went on to say in post 1707, and Anon put up, no name in the redacted portion of the FISA application. And then Q said, when did no name travel to the UK? Q. Now, someone put all this together, and they have a good theory on when this trip happened. And we'll read some of this here, and they listed a lot of NBC articles, The Guardian, and things like that, but put together this. It looks like no name got the word of the dossier mid-trip when he was heading toward Georgia and Montenegro. Decided to go over to Britain and get it himself. And he was going to use this to take down Trump. And we know, going back in time with other reports, that McCain did hand this off. And it looks like he was the one that did this. Now, Q went on to post 1708. And Q put up, when did no name travel to the UK? When did no name travel to the UK? Did it twice, and went on to say the following. What if the UK government worked hand in hand with the Hussein admin to sabotage the 2016 election? Data collection, voice, video, bugging, creation of fake intel dossier using X-Spy, co-sponsor insurance policy, POTUS election, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, No Name, Clapper, Brendan Rice, Loretta Lynch, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Barack Obama, or Hussein, plus 22, what if Intel masked penetration to frame Russia? CrowdStrike, servers. Why does the UK government desperately want Julian Assange? Think source files. The more you know. Q. So it looks like Julian Assange, everything that Q is trying to tell us is most likely Q Assange had all these files, has the information. And we know this from past posts. Let's move on to post 1709. There's a picture of, and Anon put this up, of Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook death spiral, stock plunges 24%. Q says something big is about to drop. And we move on to post 1710. And Q put up a post within this post, 1483. And Anon put up just a reply to Q from last thread about Ingram interview. It was an awful interview. Once again, weak, ineffectual, limp-wristed, promised to hold a vote to hold Rosenstein in contempt. Who cares? Until Rosenstein is hauled off by the House Sergeant at Arms, as granted per the Supreme Court, it means nothing. Anyone remember Holder? Nothing happened to him. Nothing. This pisses me off to no end. Just close the fist and crush them already. What the hell is Trump waiting for? Q then responded, full weight of the House versus Arm. Why are optics important? How does this DC work? Why is Ryan still in office? Lame duck. Why is Ryan leaving office? Who controls Ryan? Autist engaged. And when we look at this, Q says, relevant today, news unlocks. And the news unlocks in about an hour of when Q wrote this. And it says, Meadows Jordan to appear with Laura Ingraham on Fox tonight at 10:20 p.m. to discuss their effort to impeach Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. And we have to stay tuned because big things are about to happen, even bigger things to come. And remember, this has to happen in this way because you need all the evidence. These individuals were very tricky in hiding a lot of this information. And to track all this down and to get them speaking about it, to get them on record, because you just can't have he said this, she said that. You need documentation. You need the truth. You need all the information. That is what is being gathered right now. And every day that goes by, more information is gathered. And eventually, I think what we're waiting for is the month of August, when things are declassified, when the real information starts to come out, and we can see the other truth, the other information that has been gathered throughout this period of time. And these individuals are working behind the scenes. And again, these individuals can't realize that what is coming is for them. They think they have the upper hand. They're so into their egos, they're so into themselves that they think they have the ability to get the information, go to New Zealand, use this information, and try to bring down Trump and the Patriots and the rest. But it hasn't been working. And they know time is limited. And the movement has to be in such a way that these individuals don't use an event that would outdo 9/11. I mean, think about this. Go back to the election. These individuals thought they had the election. It didn't even come into their heads that Hillary Clinton would lose. They thought it was all said and done. They had the election. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden they come to find out they didn't. Right now, they do believe they still have the upper hand. They think they have the ability to shut all this down. And if they figure out they don't, they will use an event on the people. Remember, they make the people pay. Look at other countries. Look what the deep state has done in other countries. When they reject the puppet regime, they take it out on the people. They destroy the infrastructure. They destroy everything the people have. Look at Yemen. The people rejected the puppet government. So the deep state with Saudi Arabia went in and made the people pay for it until they would give. The same thing in Ukraine, the same thing in Syria, the same thing in Iraq, same thing in Lebanon. That we will replace your government with what we want and you will pay for it. We'll destroy your infrastructure, we'll destroy all this until you say, okay, put in a new government. And this is what's been happening. They don't care about the people. They don't care what they destroy. And I think this is what the Patriots and Trump are trying to avoid. Because if they catch on, if they realize what's happening here, and this is why a lot of it's happening behind the scenes, they will use an event larger than 9/11 to make the people pay. Because that's how they work. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.